Have you ever had a moment that was so ordinary? Suddenly, he felt a complete collapse, isn't it? Because something major happened. Instead, it was the sudden realization that I had truly lived. The image he once hated and looked down on most. Gu Changwei's masterpiece of the Wind God. Peacock stripped away this helplessness completely. That girl, Gao Weihong, once desperately wanted to become a Scaramouche. She went on hunger strike to resist and steal money, even for an illusory landing, scattering dreams, letting go of a girl's dignity. However, reality gave him the opposite. A fierce strike, shattering dreams. Scarola didn't succeed. In the end, she could only reluctantly marry another man's wife, living a life where the horizon stretches as far as the eye can see. This is a film that makes you laugh and cry when you laugh. When you truly understand, it suddenly becomes clear. The greatest tragedy in life is never when you give it your all but still can't fly. It is because you clearly have no wings. Yet, he spent his entire life chasing a dream about flying. The ancient city wall of Anyang, Henan, from the 1970s, stretches deep into the passage of time. The city was filled with the sound of smoke and cooking smoke. The 5 members of the Gulf family squeezed into a weathered bucket. There was no air conditioning or fan in the building. In summer, only the natural breeze passing through the alleys and the hot air brushes against the heat. It was also blown away that the aroma of food wafting from every stove was truly crowded. But that steaming warmth of everyday life was also real. Both parents were ordinary factory workers. In the minds of their generation, they behaved and kept their own way, being honest. And honest is the greatest confidence in life. But the 3 children in this family each had a different fate. The out-of-place big brother Gao Weigo is 23 years old this year. When I was a child, a sudden high fever struck. This caused him to fall behind with a slight brain-brain gap, and his intelligence was forever frozen at the age of 5 or 6. His body grew heavier and his movements slower, like a giant who never grows up. The second sister, Gao Weihong, is 20 years old. She is slender and quiet, looking as if she were untouched by the wind. But deep down there was a fire burning that wouldn't go out. She dislikes the petty ice in this small space. It is all about the freedom and romance of the outside world. A star has long wanted to fly out of this bucket building. The third younger brother was Gao Weiqiang, 16 years old, gloomy and introverted, like a shadow in this old building. Silent at home, at school. Silence. Even her breathing seemed to be carefully hiding herself, testing all your emotions into your stomach. Under the same roof, we look at the same wisp of evening breeze. These 3 people were like birds trapped in a cage. They flailed desperately trying to fly into the sky. But reality is a bottomless quagmire. In the end, they fell heavily in completely different ways. The second sister, Gao Weihong, is the most restless soul in this family. After graduation, she then stayed at home in leisure, the thing I love to do most in daily life. It is like standing alone in the old bucket building corridor, holding hands, feeling the charm. The mother felt sorry for her daughter, running around everywhere and going to great lengths to break ties, speak kindly. It took a lot of effort to secure her a job at a daycare. But deep down, proud Gao Weihong, he looked down on this stable yet trivial job. On his first day at the company, he was dazed, getting by perfunctory, ignoring children who cry and fuss endlessly. A moment of carelessness accidentally caused the child to decline to the ground, facing the parents' harsh criticism and insults. The humble mother, all I can do is set aside my dignity and humble myself. Come to apologize, Gao Weihong thus completely lost her official job. Once again, he became a young man of the Dye family. You can only go to the pharmaceutical factory, temporary laborers washing medicine bottles. Until one day, the countless paratroopers drifting down ignited the long-dormant spark in his heart. Watching each parachute is like a freely fish drifting freely across the sky. He recklessly hopped on his bike and sped all the way, chasing into the depths of the barren grass. A young male Scaramouche slowly descended from the sky. That gentle and simple sentence didn't scare you, did it? Goodbye. It instantly shattered all the heaviness in his heart. It perfectly hits his longing for love and his boundless longing for freedom in the distance. To break free from the prison of the small town, he secretly enlisted in the army without telling his family. They hoped to use the wings of the military camp to completely fly out of the oppressive ancient city. To enlist smoothly and please that Scaramouche, he deliberately played table tennis with the other party, deliberately catering to him. He even secretly took his mother's hard-earned money for groceries, buying expensive cigarettes and wine. He planned to visit to give gifts and arrange things. But in that era where connections were rampant, at his core, he was aloof. Gao Weihong didn't understand Yuanhua's lustful debauchery. From the very beginning, it was destined to lose everything. When he holds expectations in his heart, when he went with gifts. But he saw with his own eyes that the male soldier was with another man. Girls from wealthy families with broader connections get along very well. In an instant, his pride and vanity and distant ideals, reality crushed them hard. He walked dejectedly to the cold bridgehead. He lived frugally with his whole family. The tobacco and alcohol they exchanged for, along with his own shattered dream of scattering and fleeing. He threw them all into the icy, bone-chilling river water. Watching Li He slowly sink to the riverbed, it only leaves a deep, suffocating sense of sorrow and sorrow. Gao Weihong's tragedy has always been hidden deep in her bones. He possesses a vision far beyond his surroundings, aesthetics and aspirations, full of anticipation, romance and freedom. Yet he simply doesn't understand how to navigate the ways of the world. He is not smooth at handling matters. He naively believed that with just a lone spear and a bit of cleverness, he could defy fate, but underestimated the shackles of the times. It also underestimates the hardness and coldness of the real barriers, that innate pride and stubbornness, in the face of harsh reality. In the end, fragile and desolate, life shattered him hard, leaving Weihong powerless to resist the shattered dreams. Lock yourself in your room, resisting the injustice of fate through hunger strike. His parents had no choice but to break in and force the steam bun into his mouth. Only then was he finally pulled back from the grip of death. But that unquenchable obsession deep in his heart, but it spawned near mad moves. He pulled a piece of blue cloth from the sewing machine, sewn into a massive landing. The umbrella strapped to the back seat of a bicycle rushed onto the street, desperately rushing in time. The umbrella suddenly opened in the wind, like a blooming dandelion. It was his most mournful silent cry for freedom. Others thought she was crazy, and her mother flew into a rage, rushing forward and personally tearing the parachute to shreds, and crushed it with his own hands. Her last hope, to recover the umbrella stolen by the small-time thug Guozi. Weihong actually took off his pants right in front of him, using his dignity as a bargaining chip. All I seek is to exchange that little desire that symbolizes freedom. His resolve shook the fruit. Finally, he fired a shot at the ground. In a ridiculous way, he guarded the last line of the rogue. Not long after, the melancholy Weihong met an elderly man holding hands with charm at the art troupe. Two lonely souls isolated by the world, in the deep melody and loneliness, briefly huddled together for warmth, piecing together each other's barren lives. Long-term absence. Wei Hongtai, who loves a father, is deeply attached to this tenderness. He deliberately scratched his own arm. He lied, claiming to have suffered years of abuse and treatment from his family, humbly seeking the elderly sympathy. Greed, grasping this body, a fatherly love he had never had before. But a small city that is closed off can never accommodate pure feelings. Rumors and gossip are like invisible blades, arbitrarily twisted, all gentle and gentle. This clean redemption was quickly twisted by rumors from the streets. A scandalous scandal that has become a filthy scandal that everyone despises swept in. The old man's children came to the door angrily. He publicly insulted and fought with Wei Hong, trampling on his last remaining dignity. Time and again, chasing hope, falling into the abyss again and again, struggling countless times. After the broken and sinking experience, Wei Hong faced his homeland, completely devoted to family and life, heartbroken and despondent. He no longer chases fleeting freedom and tenderness, choosing to treat marriage as the only bargaining chip for escape. After only 3 meetings, he hastily married the director's driver. He didn't ask for a bride price, nor did he seek stability. He only offered one cold and resolute condition: help him change jobs, completely escape this suffocating home. On the wedding day, there was no joyful ceremony. There is no ritual of blessing. There was not a trace of the warmth of a newly wedding. Wei Hong cut it off, long hair grown for many years. She gave her only valuable watch to her simple-minded, foolish big brother. After finishing all this, he didn't hesitate to mount his husband's bicycle and left decisively. There was not a trace of attachment. This was never a marriage that was about to pursue happiness. But Wei Hong had spent half his life scheming, having long been plotting a desperate escape. Life has never treated children struggling at the bottom of society kindly. Like honeycomb coal sludge completely washed away by heavy rain, Ning is left in utter chaos. He exhausted everything, striving to build hope. The dam ultimately could not withstand the harsh winds and heavy rains of reality, washed away completely, leaving not a single survivor. In this cold home, the big brother who was foolish, Wei was the only favor and support of his parents, but due to physical flaws, he enjoyed all the family's pampering and privileges alone, living daily life before passing away. Someone is taking care of them. Even the best food always comes from the largest portion and the most heart-wrenching portion. Nothing is more subtle than a subtle favoritism. When the family divided into halls, each of the parents took out 10 grams of tongue and gave it all to the eldest brother. The young Wei Hong and his younger brother could only get a mere 5. Such blatant and undisguised favoritism. Day after day, quietly, seeds of resentment, jealousy, and resentment were planted in the siblings' hearts. But the most helpless thing is the candy cherished by the whole family. He immediately turned around and was casually fed to the geese in the courtyard by his older brother. Watching the favoritism wasted so recklessly, looking at myself, seeking but not getting others' favor, like the gentleness of a green shoe, Wei Hong's grievances and unwillingness reached their peak. He knew well that his eldest son was intellectually disabled and unable to support himself. My father had asked people everywhere for help and was finally able to get a good relationship. Weigo secured a job at the flour mill. Hopefully he can master a special skill. From now on, he could rely on himself. In an era when living peacefully and honestly hides the most naked and harsh human nature, facing mental impairedness. In the Wei State's arena, utterly powerless to resist, Officer Zhang Xi freely vented the malice in his heart. He always relied on a cheap cigarette as bait. He tricked Wei into taking on the heavy and tedious physical labor of the entire day. If the state of Wei shows even the slightest hesitation, resistance only led to beatings and kicks behind closed warehouse doors. Endless bullying day after day. Malice only grows worse.